The Drug Alternative Program presents Drugs Close to Home, your weekly insight into the ongoing stories of struggle, victory, and the spiritual renewal of rehabilitation. And now, your hosts of Drugs Close to Home, Cliff and Freddie Harris.
Welcome to Drugs Close to Home, a program about the destruction that drugs causes our families.
And the power of Jesus Christ to heal them. We believe every life is worth saving.
And Freddie, that is so true, because every changed life is a miracle from God.
Amen. Our guest today is Dr. Ricardo White. Welcome, Dr. White.
Thank you guys so much for having me today.
And guess what? Today we are going to talk about the destruction that drugs causes our families.
Okay. Dr. White, what do you do first?
I'm the medical director of the Chemical Dependency Unit at Loma Linda University's Behavioral Medicine Center.
Okay. Now, last time you were on the program, we talked about codependency. And today we want to continue that subject and to just talk about the abuse that drugs cause our families.
Well, we can so often want to focus on the person struggling with the addiction that sometimes we lose sight of the trauma that the family experiences. So the bad news is that trauma occurs, but one of the other things I'm sure we'll cover is how do we empower families to know how best to address the problems that their family member who's an addict is having for themselves, but also how the family is being impacted. How do they empower themselves?
You know, and that's one of our biggest problems here in DAP is the family. You know, they want to do so much for the addict. So tell us.
Well, I think that's why it was so helpful that we started by talking about codependency in our prior segment. Because with codependency, it's crucial to understand that you're essentially trying to do for someone what they can do for themselves.
Right.
You remember that zinger you guys threw at me, you know, is God codependent?
Yes, I remember that.
And I'd submit to you, God is not codependent because he doesn't try to do for us what we can do for ourselves.
Amen.
That's right.
So I think first off, it's crucial for the family to recognize there are things that they can do that are helpful, but then there are things that they can do that are unhelpful.
Yes.
So which would you like us to talk about first?
Things that are unhelpful.
Well, I think sometimes guilt can be paralyzing, and so the family can see the addict struggling, and they can sometimes feel a sense that they somehow failed the person struggling with the addiction, and that can lead them to try to overcompensate.
Right.
And it's crucial for them to recognize that we all make mistakes, but nevertheless, they have to commit themselves to having the courage to allowing that person to be responsible and simultaneously providing support.
Just a minute. That is a very powerful word, responsibility. And you know, that's one thing that we try to teach these guys, is for them to be responsible for themselves. Take on the responsibility of your life, not to have someone else take that responsibility. And that's so, we have one client here right now. The mother has stepped back. She's been a codependent. We've been counseling her. She's been going to counseling. And she's been such a codependent to him before. Now she sees where she has stepped back. And you know what he said to me the other day? He said to me, "You all have brainwashed my mother." Brainwashed my mother. And I didn't give a response back to it right then, but it showed me, it gave me a sense of where he's thinking, that he still wants his mother to support him, but he still says he wants to take responsibility for his life.
But he doesn't know how.
But he doesn't know how.
When you think about what the opposite of responsibility is, the word victim comes to mind. I don't know about you, but have you ever had the unfortunate experience of having to sit next to a victim at the airport.
Yes.
You know,
Yes,
you
yes.
stuck in a 5-hour plane ride with someone who everything is everybody else's fault except theirs.
Right. Blame everybody else.
You blame everybody else. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world to experience a person who takes responsibility. It's not a pretty thing to take responsibility. It's not a pretty thing to look ourselves right in the face and say, you know what, I'm responsible for that. I got to own my part of that. And that is an important that's an important thing to accomplish in the process of recovery. Learning how to take responsibility for your actions.
That's one of our biggest problems, Dr. White. Give us some tips. How do we get these guys to do this?
Well, I think first off, we make it clear we all struggle with taking responsibility. As I've interacted with addicts, what I've found the most helpful is looking at my own life and seeing what are behaviors that I struggle with, that I have a really difficult time not doing, even though I've identified the fact that it's not something that serves me as well as it really should. And so if we get off of our pillars, and I recognize I struggle with taking responsibility myself. So you know what? This is something that we're all going to have to work on. But if you want to embrace power, then we have to embrace responsibility. If we want to embrace weakness, if we don't want to experience growth, then we continue to hold on to the victim mentality. But it's as you consider who it is you'd want to interact with, we run from victims. We don't like people who constantly make excuses as opposed to owning the fact that I'm responsible for that.
And you know, I'm at this point right now with this young man. I really don't want to deal with it because, not that I don't want to deal with it, but I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over again to him, and he doesn't get it. But, you know, I'm kind of perplexed here where to go with this.
I think one of the keys is to instruct the family on what to do to help make that person responsible, because if they keep, you know, helping him, he's not going to ever be responsible.
That's why we talk about, hey, how do you provide healthy boundaries? And so, of course, there are things that families can participate in. There are support groups that families can participate in to learn about this issue of addictions and understand what other families have done in order to overcome addictions, in order to understand how to set healthy boundaries. One of the most powerful things we have at the in our chemical dependency program at the Behavioral Medicine Center is we have family groups. And one of the first things we do is we sit down those families with one another so that they can see they're going through similar challenges and they can hear how other families have overcome those challenges. So step one is reaching out and learning about other people who are having a similar struggle. When you think of, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you've given me some good information here, because I've got to figure out how to approach this situation with this young man, because he's a good young man, you know, and so we see the potential in him.
I think you're assuming responsibility when you start taking a look at the fact that, hey, you know what, I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting frustrated and I have to reach out beyond myself. You know, and as Christians, it's a powerful thing to say, you know what, I got to take this one to prayer. And then there's also the role of, okay, what was a family that may have had a similar issue that maybe I can link these two families together so they can understand, okay, what might be some tools that we may use in empowering this young man.
Good point.
I love the fact that you have a vision of what it is this young man can become. And I think that's crucial in order to keep motivating you to help him realize that vision that you have for him.
And I keep telling him about it. I keep bringing it to him that, you know, what his potentials are and what he can become, because this guy is so smart, so smart. And so he's expressing that he wants to go to school. So we want to help him to go to school, but he feels that, you know, it's too hard and I got to catch the bus and, you know, and this here and da-da-da-da-da. And see, he wants all these things that's difficult for him, because we had a guy in here one time that he stayed in that transition house for 4 years. And we supported him, and he graduated from Loma Linda University.
Wow.
Top of his class.
Wow.
But right today, he is a registered nurse.
Wow.
And he's doing fine.
That's awesome.
But see, this is what we're trying to get this young man to do.
Well, a crucial part of recovery is helping people to regain passion for something.
Yes.
Passion for something wholesome. I mean, we were given almost a vitality to work towards accomplishing goals. And when you think about the experience that family is supposed to facilitate, it's the experience of community.
Right.
Community, it's something extremely rich to have a sense of where you belong,
Okay.
to have a sense of purpose. And so often in society today, because of our obsession with activities that don't necessarily bind us,
Yes.
we're losing that sense of community, even in our families.
I like that word community, Dr. White. When we come back, we want to talk more about community. We'll be right back.
You are watching Drugs Close to Home, brought to you by the Drug Alternative Program. If you would like more information on the Drug Alternative Program, or if you would like to support our ministry, please call us at 909-783-1094 or visit our website at www.drugalternativeprogram.org.